Hey guys, there have been 3 new updates since I last covered the new DLC, so let's quickly go over them. The following changes are for all versions of the game. They added the Dasha Saltwine seed and the Mealwood seed to the care packages. They added a new tile texture for brine eyes. Here we do have the regular eyes. This is the new tile texture for the brine eyes. This here is crushed ice, which by the way is affected by gravity. And then we do have the frozen polluted waters, so polluted ice here to the right. They added a new recipe to the kiln. Now, in addition to coal and wood, you can use peat to create refined carbon. They added a new medicines category entry to the database. Here, this one. For now, there's allergy medication, the intermediate red pill, and a medical pack under it. For the Bionic duplicants, they changed it that they now choose to go to atmosphere rather than suffocate on a too long journey to fetch an oxygen tank. Another change has been to the description of the lubrication station, which now mentions gear oil instead of buto oil as an input. By the way, gear oil, when you click on it, can be crude oil, buto oil or biodiesel. This here is crude oil and it works. This here's buto oil, also works. And this here's biodiesel and it also works. So you can use at least these 3 liquids to lubricate your duplicants and everything they add to that category in the future. For the Frosty Planet Pack, the pike apple substitution for the berry sludge recipe, this one here, needing sleetweed grain or megafront grain plus pike apple or bristleberry to make the berry sludge, now uses the same amount of kilocalories, 1600 for the pike apple, than it has been using for the bristleberry before, so this is now even. And now to the changes and improvements of the Prehistoric Planet Pack. Let's start with the duplicants. There have been some minor changes to the drawing of Higsby's mustache in some situations. Now let's go over to the plants. The do drip art has been adjusted. This here's the do dripper, this here's the do drip, not you. This here's the do drip, and this here is the do seed. They changed the visual growth states for the do dripper plant from a seed to a small plant to a plant that is almost at 100%. Just go away. And this is the fully grown plant that just was harvested by the startle. Another change to the Dew Dripper is that they reduced the Dew Dripper's growth time. It is now only 8 cycles when wild grown and 2 cycles when domestically grown, increasing the Dew Drip units per cycle to 0.5. The plant also had a high air pressure resistance, which they now reduced. And they increased the Dew Drip cost for the plant pulverizer Brackeen recipe. Now you need 2 Dew Drips to produce 20 kg of Brackeen. They now added Ovagro seeds, this one here, to the care packages. There have been changes to the Ovagro vines. Now when you click on it, it shows the percentage that the fruit is growing, not the vine. If you want to see the vine growing, go to the last vine that is growing out of your Ovagro node and out of the last Ovagro vine. This one is growing fruit and this one is just growing. The Ovagraphic care packages now have an increased kilocalorie amount. When you go to the farming overlay, you can now see the offset UI bars, so you can better see which vine they belong to. The Ovagro database entry no longer claims that they can push out other plants. And it also no longer mentions that it pauses the vine growth when there is insufficient room to expand. They fixed the bug where fertilizing or pollinating the Ovagro vines was increasing only the vine's growth, not the growth of the fruit on the vine. So that is fixed now. Let's check this. This one here is pollinated, growth speed plus 25%. Nice. And they also fixed the kilocalories for the figs not showing up correctly. A change to the world generation is that they added buried Ovagro node seeds that you can find in certain biomes. Let's check if we can find some. They should look like this. There's one. Now we continue with the critter. By the way, this is how each respective critter looks in the critter cargo base. I'm saying this because they added the lum and lumlet to the critter cargo bay rocket module and changed the animations, so that it is fixed now. Apparently they did not fix the jawbow and the jawbow, how's it called? Jawbow fry. Funny thing about a nit larvae, even though it is a aquatic critter, you can also catch it in a critter trap. They made minor visual tweaks to the dardle and the Rhex egg. This is again how they look in all of their states. The Dartle now has a reduced bleachstone production, only 10 kg per cycle from 1 dew trip. But they do have an additional production of chlorine gas of 10 kg per cycle. They also increased its lifetime to 50 cycles, as you can see here to the right. And they reduced the amount of meat that the Dartle drops. It is now down to 800 kilocalories. They also made color adjustments for the Rhex baby. Rhexes and Rhex babies can now drink from the critter fountain. And they can use the critter condos. They also significantly increased the Rhex's brine ice output. It is now 64 kg per cycle, not just 12.5. So I like this more here. They also added a bonus to the brine ice output if they eat living prey. And they now eat a consistent amount of the prey. And fixed the shovel. They also rebalanced the pounce success rate for both the wild and the tame raptors. Dope. None of them here just caught at the hedge. Let's give them a little bit of time. You know what, let's come back to this. Rhexes now have 90% scale growth upon maturation. This one has 100% and we just sheared it. Let's get one of the tinier ones. This one here for example. It is age 5 and already has 100% scale growth. Honestly, I'm not really sure what I mean with this. They also lowered the Rhex's comfort temperature range below the freezing point of the brine ice, because normally they just, well, poop out the liquid brine ice, which is super annoying because you have to refreeze it and then lose half of the mass when you dig it up. Now they like to live in temperature ranges of -50 to 15, but the livable range is even higher with -100 to +100 degrees Celsius. By the way, they still haven't caught anything. Let's continue with the lump. The lump can now use the critter condo and drink from the critter fountain. There have been animation changes to the lump's stomp animation. Come on my boy, you can do this. They adjusted the lump's diet, increasing the calorie consumed. Now they eat 1300 kilocalories per cycle and they do excrete 200 kg of peat per cycle. They still do drop 12 kg of tough meat, which is good. The Jabor can now use the water fort, but the animation is not finalized. You couldn't wrangle the Mimica before, that is now fixed. Bro, Nits can no longer be groomed, but they can now be captured at the critter pickups. By the way, the Rhex still sucks at hunting. Let's continue with the food. The smoker now needs the grilling skill to be emptied, but not to be supplied. And now it is finished, but it cannot be emptied without the skill. So let's give EasyX the skill, grilling 1, and now he's able to do whatever he does there. And they also increased the art of the tender brisket. Now it looks more like the ribs it should represent. The tender brisket and smoked fish now also contribute to fulfilling the carnivore achievement. This one here. By the way, the Rhexes still haven't caught anything. The age of the hedge is 6. Let's see what happens if I introduce an older critter. This one is 116 years old. For the smoked fish, this one here, they added the effect radiation resistance, the same as for every other fish dish as well. They added some new journal lore entries. They added sounds to the smoker, peat burner and emulsifier. When hit with the automatic hammer. There has been a slight reduction to the polluted water output of the peat generator. It now outputs 200 grams per second. The sea comb to Phyto oil conversion rate was broken at a rate of 1:10, not 1:1. Now the recipe should make more sense. You need 25 kg of sea comb leaf and 75 kg of water to create 100 kg of Phyto oil. The sea comb growth time and yield was adjusted accordingly. Now we have a wild growth time of 20 cycles and a domestic growth of 5 cycles with an output of 10 kg per cycle. The recipe for the biodiesel in the emulsifier has been adjusted. Now you put in 160 kg of Phyto oil and 40 kg of bleach stone to get 200 kg of biodiesel. And that's the 200 kg of biodiesel. They increased the biodiesel input requirement of the blast shot maker when producing the intracosmic blast shots. So you now need 200 kg of biodiesel and 200 kg of petroleum to produce them. By the way, if you produce like 5 in this style and 5 in that style, you can see the order of production if you hover over the number that you produce. So I try to produce 5 with aluminum, peat and petroleum, which I do not have, and 5 with nickel, peat and biodiesel, which I have. So now let's see if the duplicate actually does something. No, so I have to cancel the first 5. However, I do that. Canceling this is harder than expected. So aluminum, peat and petroleum should be 5. Yeah, now I can cancel it, and this one is next, which should work. Yeah, the symbol disappeared, but this is hard to cancel, so Clay probably need to fix this. Finally. By the way, the Rhexes still haven't caught anything. Resin? You know, the stuff that you get from this plant, the amber, when heated up, that's the resin that I mean. Or the amber crushed in the plant pulverizer will give you resin. This resin now transitions to steam and refined carbon instead of steam and coal. So that is another way to get refined carbon. Get your resin from the crushed amber from the Lura plant, heat it up and turn it into refined carbon. They also claim to have fixed the white lines near solid tiles when zooming out, which is true to a degree, but as soon as you go any bit further, then the white lines reappear, just like you can see here everywhere. So not fixed, only partially fixed. Still, props to Clay for fixing this so quickly, at least in the closer up zooming areas. The feather biome, this one here to the left, no longer claims that the Dartle's meat is too tough to eat. It is the Rhex's meat. Now to the changes of the Demolier, the asteroid. They added explosion effects in the Demolier impact sequence whenever it destroys cells or buildings or anything like that. They also increased the radius of excavation that happens around the geysers that appear after the Demolier asteroid impacts. Also, oil wells are no longer affected or revealed by the Demolier's impact. And they fixed the bug where the asteroid didn't impact at all. And they also spiced up the Demolier impact by having the geysers erupt once the impact asteroid collision has occurred. Even though the eruption times when active can still, well, you can see it here, take 13 cycles to erupt. This one only a few seconds, and there we have it, eruption. This one 11 cycles, and this one 0.6 cycles. But funnily enough, the geysers here to the right and the volcanoes here to the right did erupt, at least here the liquid sulfur geyser, the aluminum volcano and the cobalt volcano as well. And then there have been a whole lot of fixes, but I'm not going through all of these. So check out the sources to the original post from Clay Entertainment that I put in the comment section and in the description of this video. By the way, the Rhex still hasn't caught anything. So they have either an abysmal catch rate, which is like 1 out of 1,000, or there's some other rules, as you've already mentioned and as some other might suspect. They only eat critter that are old enough to lay their eggs. But since I added this one here, and there's no mentioning of this in the description of the Rhex, that is so far just an assumption until Clay clears it up or we figure out what the actual rules for the Rhex prey catch rate are. We can only assume. So far we only know that the chance of Rhex actually catching something is pretty low. Love you guys and Luma out.